Let's take a look at what is keyframe animation in this movie. We'll also take a look at the time slider, range slider, and also some playback preferences and some time slider preferences. So right now, what I have in my scene is pretty much if I go to the playback buttons over here, if I play forward, here's a ball animating from point A to B to C. So keyframe animation lets you transform objects over time by setting keyframes. So what does that mean? So right now you can see I have three red lines over here. There's a red line over here, there's a red line over here, and a red line over here. Those are called keyframes. So what I did was I set a keyframe at frame 1, I set another keyframe and moved the ball over here and rotated it at frame 30, and I set another keyframe at frame 60 and also rotated the ball. And Maya calculated everything in between from 1 through 30 and 30 through 60. So that's the beauty of 3D animation. Unlike 2D animation, you do not have to draw each and every frame. So when I go from 1, these are frame 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can see the Maya has calculated everything for me. Then I have a keyframe at frame 30, and then right here I have a keyframe at frame 60. So I just did those 3 keyframes, and Maya did everything for me. If I go to my button over here, that's an animation preferences button, and if I click on that, I have the time slider preferences and also the playback preferences. The time slider is this right here. It shows you your total animation time. So right now I'm at 1 through 60, which is 60 frames. That's how many frames I have in my animation. And right below that is something called the range slider. So the range slider just lets me focus on, let's say if I wanted to just watch the animation between frame 15 and 45. I can do that right from the range slider. So you can see right over here right now it's just showing me from 15 through 45. If I go back to my animation preferences, this area over here, playback start and end, it's pretty much your range slider area. Animation start and end is your total animation. It's going from 1 through 60. The height 1x, 2x, and 4x is nothing but the height of the time slider. So if I go to 2x, and then I can go to 4x. Allows you to nicely see your keyframes properly, but also you can input some sound files in there. So let's take this range back up. The key ticks is nothing but the keyframe size. I like to generally leave it at like 15, so I can see my keyframes really, really nicely. Also, the playback is the playback speed over here. This is very important. Update view active, which means that only the view I've selected will be updated when I'm playing back. And when I say continuous, what happens is it keeps playing my animation. Right there. As opposed to oscillate, which is like a ping pong effect, and once is just it plays once and stops. But playback speed right now is at real time, and that's what I want to do in most cases in animation, other than, if you're doing some dynamics. And right now it's at 30 FPS. FPS stands for frames per second, and that's configured for NTSC, which is used in North America. So if I go to the settings button over here, this is where you can change the time preferences right here. So I can go to film. If I was doing something for film, it'll be at 24 frames per second, which means there will be 24 images which make up that 1 second of animation. So for NTSC, it's 30 frames. So it's 30 images, 30 still images, which make up that 1 second of animation. And PAL is pretty much used in Asian countries, and that's 25 frames per second. So right now I'm at 30 frames per second, and I'm at 60 frames, which means I'm playing a 2-second animation right here.